Hello everybody, Hassan here, engineer, MBA, and investor. And in today's video, I want to talk about the New Yorker article talking about that transformative, alarming power of gene editing. A rogue scientist that showed CRISPR gives humans the ability to transform ourselves, but should we? Question mark. By Dana Goodyear. September 2nd, 2023. First of all, this looks like this is the first article I am reading. The last article I'm reading for free, because then I have to pay $6 for 12 weeks and cancel anytime I have to subscribe to the New Yorker. And obviously, I will never do that. But that's beside the point. This article here talks about CRISPR. It talks about a little bit of history. More specifically, it talks about HJ. Acronym for He Jiankuai Q. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. It's a Chinese researcher here that was jailed for creating customized babies. Some observers argued that the real problem wasn't him; it was the lure of the technology. And I think that's a great philosophical question, right? Is it the person, or is it actually the technology? Is it actually the human nature driving us to maybe transform ourselves, not just for healing purposes, but for literally editing purposes? So meaning, let's say I'm in a couple with a person, and we want to, have an offspring, but both of our eye colors are brown. I want to have blue color babies. Then I go through this technology called CRISPR, gene editing, to basically have babies that have blue colors. Blue color eyes. Now, obviously, that's a far-fetched, that's way too simplified right now, but my point stands, right? What if we can actually edit out specific traits of our offsprings? And this article basically talks about that, right? It talks about the philosophy behind that, how CRISPR has been an amazing tool for, eradicating potential diseases that we've never had alternatives for. I mean, I just had this conversation this morning, just before this video, on Hexacell, and I made the claim that Hexacell is a program that's really not talked about in the stock market, in the mainstream media. It's really not. I mean, it has potentially cured over 40 patients in sickle cell disease, another 40 patients in beta thalassemia. We looked at the HbF levels that have been extremely fixed, potentially, of course, with regard to what the baseline should be for a normal average person. And that program has been successful in terms of data so far. Obviously, we don't know the future. We can't predict the future, but we've had data for years at this point, and the Hexacell's yet to be approved by the FDA, although we expect to be approved around December of this year, or if not before. And that program is not talked about, right? But, you get a lot of these philosophy questions, right? Well, CRISPR is such a great technology, although we don't have it in the mainstream media, commercial available. What if humans start using this technology to, transform our human race? I mean, have, instead of 2 arms, 3 arms. I mean, I'll be honest with you, those are way far-fetched questions that I think they're great for fan fiction. I think they're great for science fiction. I think they're amazing for stories, for written stories, maybe even for video formats, documentaries maybe. But that's not real life, okay? Real life is people with diseases. Real life is many diseases around there that we have no cure. We have diseases out there that there is a potential cure, but there's so many dosage. There's like constant dosage for lifetime. It's extremely expensive. It's not sustainable. I mean, you look at insulin, you look at diabetes, you look at insulin, you look at all these things around, constant lifetime, maintenance on the person. I mean, think about it, right? So far medicine has gone there was a time there was no medicine, right? There was a time people were just relying on shamans and experts of the village, as per se. And now we have documented science, we have textbooks, we have data that tells you if you have X disease, this is what you should be doing. A lot of viruses, we have a lot of antibiotics. We've come a long way with science, right? Don't get me wrong. But to say that there's not another level. I think it's quite naive. I think CRISPR can introduce that. It has introduced that for hexacell, for example. I mean, NTLA is working with the HAE disease. I mean, you got, Caribou working for, their own program, CBO10. You got Beam Therapeutics, yet to get any data, but they're working on sickle cell disease as well. I mean, there's so many companies out there that are working on those diseases that really we have no alternatives. And even if there was one CRISPR program available, it would never be enough to even cover the US population alone. I mean, think about it, right? I mean, sickle cell disease, I mean, just look at beta thalassemia and sickle cell disease. Even if hexacell was to get approved today, like forget about it in December, like today, and things start running up for CRISPR Therapeutics and Vertex, they wouldn't even be able to dose more than 1,000 to 2,000 patients a year, right? And there's hundreds of thousands of patients in the US just for that disease. I haven't even talked about Africa. I haven't even talked about Asia. I mean, there's so many regions out there, right? And then you get all these rare diseases that no one's doing anything about it. And because, funding is low, governments have other priorities, and technology was never there, right? But now technology is there, right? So I think this article does a great job talking about, the philosophy around it. But in my opinion, I think it's all great for reading. It's all good for fan fiction. But when it comes to actual hard data, life, science, I mean, this does not apply, guys. This is way too far fetched. I don't think people actually understand how far we are from there. Okay, yeah, there was that Chinese scientist that went above the science community and did something that shouldn't have been done, and he was punished for it. And I'm sure there's going to be other people, just like when electricity was invented, people did wrong things with electricity. I mean, think about nuclear technology, right? Just think about nuclear bombs and everything. Just think about every technology that we've had. Guns. I mean, I'm quite confident that when guns were first introduced, people were doing dumb stuff with guns. I mean, forget about, for nations use, just dumb stuff, just maybe, doing really dumb stuff with guns. I mean, every technology has a downside to it. Some have a worse side to it, but ultimately technology is there to advance human society. And it's like this article, it says something, I don't know if I can find this sentence here, but in the article it says something like, CRISPR should remain a healing technology, not a editing traits technology. I'm paraphrasing here, and I agree with that. I think CRISPR should remain a healing technology. I think there's lots of healing to be done in this society. I mean, there's so many things we can achieve. I mean, it's quite naive to think that, I don't even know why people are even talking about other things. I mean, the full focus should be on healing. The full focus should be on looking at all these thousands of diseases that we have no cure, and finding a way to find a cure. We want those research labs to find a way, get invested by governments, get grants from government. I have no problem with my tax money in Canada, for example, to Health Canada, them distributing money to programs like hexacell, that they have a couple of programs in Canada, I believe, from CRISPR Therapeutics and Vertex. They have ViaCyte there in the West there. I know in British Columbia, they have that university or institution that has that's doing all the dosage. Because you remember, ViaCyte and CRISPR Therapeutics is only being dosed in Canada with Health Canada. Health Canada being the counterpart of the FDA, but in Canada. So that's what I'm saying, guys. There's so many healing to be done. There's so much focus to be done, and I just think we're way too early in this space to even be talking about this philosophy stuff. But it's a good read. Great article from the New Yorker. I think the big plus here is that it gives exposure to us CRISPR investors. I think we've seen this story play out many years ago. Lots of new readers. I mean, you got to remember, these legacy media have a wide reach. They have a wide reach of 50, 60, 70 years old folks that would never read about CRISPR if it wasn't for the New Yorker, for example. So great article in that sense. But of course, for the educated mind in this space, I think, I think this is all great for science fiction, but we should just remain focused on the healing part. There's so much to be done there. So anyways, I wanted to do a quick video on Sunday for this, guys. Hopefully you guys appreciate this video. As always, subscribe if you're not. Like this video if you found value. Let me know, guys, what do you guys think about this article? What do you guys think about the healing aspect? Should we just focus on healing? Or does this make sense to, gossip about the technology use of transforming human race? Let me know in the comments below, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.